take your silence as a yes.
Yeah, yeah. Can see you.
Yep. All right. Cool.
Yeah, you're good.
You can hear me well?
I can hear you, but you're just like so unclear. I don't
Why
know
is
what.
it so unclear?
It's because your mic quality is like really low.
No, yeah, dude. This is one of the best mics.
Trust me, it's definitely muffled. Like it's like
Oh,
this. It's like you're talking to like if someone.
oh, that's okay, okay. That's the noise cancellation thing that I've done.
You know,
That's
you're like, this is the best mic that money can buy. $5. Like what?
Yeah, it's also one of the cheapest ones.
Yeah, I was looking to upgrade my own mic. There's one like the ones you see like in podcasts and stuff,
Yeah,
but those are like it's a few $100s. I'm like, I don't know if I need it that badly.
this is like one of those ones.
Anyway, all right. So let's talk about this. All right.
Yeah,
So color. So whenever people color, they usually have this. Problem with the values and painting color into values, and it's still not going to be a problem you guys will probably solve immediately, but as you guys begin to practice it, you'll get better and better at it. I'm trying to get like a different range of values here. Should be good. So whenever people do this strategy where they'll use a color layer, and then like this is the strategy that I usually tell people. But then like let's go ahead and just do this. So I'm painting this red, you know, and then they'll put it on a color layer, and now it's invisible, right? Well, because it's going against white, and white is an absolute color. So is black. Black is also an absolute color, meaning that black is black and white is white. But as you go into the different shades of grays, this color red will have a different effect. And so as you see, this is what we get. And you'll notice that on the lighter values, it's a little bit washed out. And then on the darker values, it's a little bit brownish. It's kind of dirty. But somewhere in the middle, it looks pretty good. It looks like red. And this is the part where I usually encourage people to think about like the value of the color that they pick. So you can see here, this works best in a little more of like the lighter tones. This one also does. If I were to change the shade of green, it affects it differently. But as you start to mess around with this stuff, you'll see where certain colors exist in the spectrum of value. Right, so with yellow being, it really exists very close to the lighter tones, and then purples do better towards the darker tones, and almost every other color in between lives somewhere in the middle, in the midtones. And so what does this mean? Well, when you're painting a character, so let's say I'm doing a character design, as I do. And then I'm thinking of giving him like some sort of helmet. Right, and it has all these different values to it. I could start to consider what this means in terms of color. Knowing that these darker values that I'm painting in, they will they won't work really well unless they're with like some sort of mid-tone value, or sorry, mid-tone color, like these darker values. Like, so like blues, purples could probably work. But I can also think, if I'm thinking red, it would be like browns, magenta. Like these types of colors can probably exist in these areas. Does this make sense? And so like when you're putting values in, you might not be thinking about colors, but when it's time to put colors in, you should think about what those colors can do with the values you have. Because let's say you want a certain color in a certain area and you want to make that change, then this is the time to do it. I'll show you. So let's say we have this design, feeling pretty good about it. Okay, and then I'm like, okay, I want to add some color to this. Actually, just do this. Okay. So if I want to add color to this, like this flesh areas, like if I feel that I want to make that flesh a little bit darker, then I might actually go out of my way to like darken the overall values. And then actually paint in a darker value. In fact, this is like one of those things where whenever I start to correct people's colors, I almost always fix their values and they're just like, whoa, what the hell? And then I put the colors back on top and they're like dumbfounded to how that works. But it only reinforces the point of like, yeah, colors are really valuable. But values are more valuable. And getting the values really good is what matters more. And so now that I got like more of like a mid-tone feeling, like color, I have a little bit more range of colors I can work with. But I'm gonna probably stick to classic Caucasian complexion, and then I can go in here and be like, all right, some parts will be a little bit more saturated. So I'm like not going full tilt. I'm kind of glazing it in there, and then I'm thinking of places where like red makes more sense. This is more just artistic. This is more of like an artistic choice I'm making here. And then we can get some blues kind of here. So I'm feeling good about that. We can get like purples just to add some variation of complexion. This is all just superficial stuff anyway. And then let's say I want to like paint this blue. Since it's super dark, I can kind of look at it like it's going to be like this kind of blue, a very dark blue. If I want it to be lighter, I got to change the values. And then we can keep this blue tint, but we can go like with a teal, kind of in all these light areas. And then from here, I can like look at this and be like, okay, let's add like some greens to add some warmth. And then with this blue, we can go to the purples and do the same deal. So just so it's not like blue on blue. And so there's a little bit more dimension here. But then like, again, if I change the values, we can get like a different sensibility overall. And let's say I wanted to really go and change this value, and let's say make this person darker, like their complexion, because humans are humans, and we don't really have different skin color, we just have more melanin. It just looks darker because it's more thicker, and so that those peaches will still actually work. But there are some differences whenever you're playing painting a little bit darker complexion. Like cools stand out a lot more. So we can go back here and maybe do some desaturation. I'm still an overlay. Let me do this. So we can do a little bit more desaturation in some other areas. But this is the kind of stuff that I would probably paint in. But you can see how just changing values, it really affects the color. And obviously, if you're designing a character that has more of a Caucasian features and then making them have Caucasian complexion, you can't just all of a sudden make them like black, because that's not how it works. There's more to looking black than just darker skin. But anyway, hopefully you guys understand a little bit about how to go about coloring. But ultimately, it's just the beginning, because then I actually will paint on top of this. You know, like I'll actually come in and begin to paint. You know, and actually do a better job. And then like I'll probably start to, if I didn't already have it, start to add more, since like this values aren't there, like I can push this a little bit more. I can then begin to do like this type of stuff. Make sense? Does anyone have any questions specifically about what I've done here?
Nope.
It's pretty self-explanatory. But let me explain that on top of this, like I really mean it. When I say values really rule the show, I mean it. Like it really is pretty crazy how much strong values will make you a great painter, even if you never practice painting in color. It makes painting in color so much easier. All right. All righty. Okay. I think I just jumped into the demo of painting of a character. Yeah, I think I'll just work on this guy. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna check on something. All right. Actually, no, I had a different thing I wanted to paint. I think I still
Hey
paint
AJ,
that. Yeah, what's up?
hey, can you show me how to paint like metallic armor? Like, I want to see how you do it.
Nope. All right, next
Oh man,
question. Yeah,
the
hold
one
on.
thing I want to know.
The
Yeah.
only thing in life that you wanted to learn
Like
from me.
specifically armor that would look like a really cool car, like convertibles, like the kind of paint finish they have, like that. A lot of speculars.
Cool. Yeah, let me trying to decide whether I'm going to pay on this or not. No, you know, it's fine. Let's just do. I'm just going to do it as a demo. But anyway, let me go ahead and talk about the other thing too while I'm doing this. So you can just watch as I'm painting the more metallic armor, the cool armor,
Cool.
as you pointed out. So we're talking about like opinions, right? Like the outrage. The world is outraged right now. For instance, the latest outrage is about the Joker, right? I think some of the outrage was that because the Joker was going to be like a dog whistle to a certain group of people, which I could see that argument and I understand it. And I think it makes sense. But ultimately, it's just a movie, you know? And, you know, if you are making the case that like movies have large influences on people's behaviors, then that's a problem of society, not a problem on the creation of these films. Um, you know, there might be some overlap. I'm not denying this either. But for instance, I think the majority of people don't watch a violent movie or play a violent video game and then become violent. It's just there's no real correlation there. If you're already a violent person or have violent tendencies, a violent movie or a violent video game might just supply you with more vindication. But like I said, I think that's a problem of society. Like we need to make sure people don't have these violent tendencies in the first place. And you don't want to like censor the wrong, like you don't want to solve the wrong problem. For instance, like if there's like a leaking faucet, if you use a bunch of towels to stop the faucet from leaking, it's still leaking. It's just you got to keep putting towels on top of it. You know, it's not a real solution. And so like it's easy to be like, oh yeah, violent video games, whatever, or violent movies. But like I said, I don't think those are really the systemic issues that we should focus on. It's like whenever people get mad about blackface, for instance, or any of that kind of stuff. I actually never ever really get too offended or bothered by these types of things. Not because I don't think that they're okay and it's like it's fine. It's just not really that big of an issue, um, and it's focused on like really the wrong problem yet again. The problem isn't that people are dressed up like black people. The problem is that black people are incarcerated more than anybody else for the same kinds of crimes. And I don't think blackface contributes to this type of thing. Poverty in the black community, I don't think is attributed to blackface. You know what I mean? Like there's a very clear disconnection here. And whenever I see people get upset, um, they tend to focus on the surface level problems because the surface level problems are the easiest to see. So getting back to kind of like why is this important as artists to recognize? Well, like you're going to work for a company potentially, and you might be working on something that will have that's controversy wrapped around it, or you might be a part of a team that has that controversy. You know, there's always some sort of controversy, and you got to stop pandering to the lowest common denominator. And a great example of this is the Sonic movie. This is like the latest thing. Have you guys seen the latest Sonic design? I'm sure you guys
Yeah.
have. Yeah, and I'm sure you guys have opinions on it. But here's the thing. Um, it's just a movie, right? Like the amount of outrage that I saw for this Sonic movie um, doesn't really make sense, right? And I really mean it. Like I think there's genuinely a lot of people that are really mad about a fictional character redesign. Now, I do agree with the criticism. Actually, that think that's actually justified. Like a lot of what people are saying, but I think like the overwhelming outrage, like this is like getting out of hand. And I think it's because people have more of a voice these days, and so they're feeling like they can say whatever they want. But just
Mm,
because you can say whatever you want doesn't mean that you know what you're saying. And I found that like even my own like other people in the industry will talk crap or even you know like say things that are really not great about this project. But it's like, well, some of your peers may have worked on this, or maybe there's like some executive decisions that were behind the scenes that we didn't see that led to why this has to be designed this way. It's not as simple as the execs don't care about the fans. It can be,
mm,
but it doesn't always have to be. And why I think this is like the problem that I have with all this is that everybody is mad all the time. And the argument that I see a lot, especially from people who are like coming from more of a right-leaning perspective, they'll say that all the liberals get super angry and upset about everything, but so too the right wing. Everybody gets upset about everything. So on one token,
mm,
you have one group of people getting super mad that there's not enough representation of a certain group of people. They're like, how dare you not have enough like of XYZ people in your movies? And
uh,
then on the flip side, when those movies do exist, then you have same people the other side of the aisle really like, oh freaking all this women empowerment or these like minorities having their own movies pandering. And it's like there was a time where a movie would just come out and just be a movie. you know if it had a
uh,
female lead, it didn't matter. If it didn't have a female lead, it didn't matter, right? You could have your crazy testosterone filled action movies, and you can also have your movies that were
chick
that had a
flicks.
message. Yeah, that had like a very powerful and strong meaningful message you know
Yep.
and you can watch it whether you could watch these movies whether you liked it. You would just or if you liked it, you would watch it. If you didn't like it, you would just say I didn't like it. You didn't throw any kind of political or any kind of like service level opinion that everybody else is spitting around. Everyone had their opinions a little bit more rational. Like you focus on what um, you liked and what you don't like. And I think there's the internet just only compounded these groups to have these arguments. And so why is this important? Because as artists, I'm a fan of like if you like to draw big old titties on your characters, you should be able to. And if you like to draw dudes making out with each other, like on like a giant hedgehog or something, you should be
Mm,
able to. If you want to draw humanoid animal people having sex with each other, go for it. If you just want to draw super cutesy, fun, adorable stuff, obviously less controversial than the previous things I mentioned, you
mm,
should be able to do it. If you want to draw political comment like comics and stuff, obviously I think there's a limit there too. You can't just do whatever the hell you want. There's obviously things that are just so offensive that maybe they should not be drawn, right? But the things I mentioned, I don't think are those things. And a lot of times when people see this idea of like, oh, look at all these like ladies that are overly dressed or underly dressed or whatever, um, you know, I think the wrong arguments being made. You're fighting the wrong fight. Like if you really care about a very specific topic, then you should look at the realities of it and how to solve it. So let me give you a great example. Um, so within our industry, it is a boys' club, meaning that there is mostly dudes, right?
mm.
This is just a fact. And oh, hold on. My woke level reached 11 already. I'm too woke. Um, so if uh, there is definitely like more dudes, and whatever the
Uh,
reason may be, and I'm not like a social psychologist or social scientist of any kind, so I have my suspicions to why this might be the case, but I don't know for sure. I don't know. I don't have all the data. But if you were to tell me like, is the industry mostly dudes or mostly women, I'd be like mostly dudes. Fact. You know, I've worked in this industry many years, and it's just how it is. I worked at Sony, and at Sony, they literally turned one of the the female bathrooms into a men's bathroom because there was not enough women to.
I had seen a video about this.
Yeah, there's not enough. There was no justification to have another women's bathroom, and
Uh,
it wasn't like a power move for Sony to be like f women. It was just the men. There was like lines to go to the bathroom, you know, and
yeah.
so we made that choice, and I thought it was really funny. You know, I didn't think anything of it, but like now in hindsight, looking back, it makes sense why people are upset about this kind of um, this lack of representation of a certain group of people. And I think that is a good strategy. It is good business to diversify your cast of employees because you have different people from different walks of life. They'll bring something new to the table. That's just how it is. That's also very true, you know.
Yep.
And so I'm a fan of that. But I also don't think that you just should have people hire people just because of what they are and what you're missing, like filling out a quota. That is not a good strategy. On the surface, it seems like it would be, but it actually isn't. If the person's not qualified, they will ultimately fail, and that failure may manifest into insecurities or vindication that the industry or the system is flawed, right?
Yeah.
And this is what creates this perpetual problem. And so the solution, in my eyes, is again a bottom up solution. You need more women, specifically, or people like groups that are underrepresented. You need to go to them and teach them how to become qualified. You got to teach them how to become epic. Like many of you guys are part of that minority, right? And
Yeah.
so, but if you aren't qualified, I don't think you should get the job. That's just how I think.
Mm.
But if you are qualified, you're going to bring your culture, your ideals, the things that you learned when you were a kid that I never experienced. It's going to be different. That's why when we go to art websites like ArtStation, we see such a wide array of like styles and personality. Obviously, too, you see like kind of like a homogenous type of style too, but like ultimately, there is different styles if you really look for them, you know, and they're really unique and really interesting. That's the value of having different voices in different places. A person from Italy is going to think differently than me, you know, and so going back to all this outrage, like people are getting mad about things that just don't matter, right?
Yeah.
and like so it was funny because my buddy was talking about the Joker too, like last night when we were at sketch group, and I was like, this whole
Mm.
situation's silly to me. So you know, he's like, yeah man, like the guy proved his point. He, like, the director, he tweeted about how outrage culture gets super easily triggered, you know, and like get offended so easily and makes comedy impossible. And then I was like, yeah, but he also was triggered by their triggering that then triggered their trigger. And then now they're all triggered. It's like, why don't we just stop, everybody to stop complaining in general?
Uh,
Like, he shouldn't have
uh,
complained. They shouldn't have complained. Like, everybody just shut up, you know? And, and he, and my buddy was laughing too, just like you did. He was like, yeah, that's true. It was like, yeah, it's like people act like he doesn't realize that he himself is complaining about a thing, you know. And it's like,
yeah.
and it's not like not everybody's right or wrong. Like, he's not necessarily wrong, nor is he right, right? Like, he's making millions of dollars making a movie. Like, he doesn't
Mm.
necessarily have much to complain about, you know. um and then and then the people who, you know, are boycotting this film, they can do just that. Like, just don't go watch the movie. And let me give you a great example of a position that I have held, and I think we talked about this before in class, where, you know, Red Dead Redemption, you know, really had
Mm.
like slave labor for their employees. Of course, they paid them, but like, if those employees decided to go home, like, you know, on time, like work 8
Mm.
hours and then go home, not work 16 hours then go home,
Mm.
there was a chance that they would get fired, you know. And that doesn't definitely is not a great situation. And I had friends who were that position, and they would save money so that they can actually quit, because they, you know, they didn't like their working conditions, but they couldn't just like up and leave, so they had to like build a plan and ultimately leave. And so I did not buy the game, you know,
Mm.
and it's not because I don't want to support my friends, or I don't like didn't want to play the game. I definitely did want to play the game. I just wanted to support and be in solidarity with people that I knew who worked on it that really didn't like working on it, you know. But the everybody on news was just like, oh, fucking, they treat their employees like slaves and all this stuff, right? Everybody's complaining and
Uh,
whining about it, and guess what? It was like one of the number one sold games, you know,
yeah.
in the world. And I'm just kind of like, see, this is my point. Like everybody says a lot of shit, dude, but nobody does anything. That's the problem, you know.
Or
And
you should see things in India. The
yeah, I'm
outrage
sure.
that happens
Yeah,
on
I'm sure
movies.
that's true. Yeah, but my point is that like, and going back to kind of when I was talking about your philosophy earlier, or the
Uh,
philosophy, like that philosophy, I don't subscribe to. I was at one point
hmm.
actually was doing that. I was complaining quite a lot, and I
Oh,
realized it was the most unproductive time of my whole life because it's really easy to talk about how the world sucks. It's actually
yeah.
hard
But
to
it's
try
hard
to
to
do something about it.
change.
Yeah. And so
Correct.
I like, for instance, I'm not just a person of climate change. Like I changed my diet for health reasons, but then I stayed because of for ethical
The
reasons.
social, ethical
Yeah.
reason. Correct.
Yeah. Try, and now I'm like, there's other things I'm planning to try to do something about it. Maybe
Hmm.
start to make more art that could help inspire people. Also, I was thinking something that I can just do personally is buy less new stuff that would feed less into manufacturers and manufacturing new products,
Okay.
right? Like buy stuff that's already been made and it's like local, like a thrift store, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, get real hippie, you know. And but like that's
That's
kind
fine.
of like the philosophy that I believe in, right? I'm like, I'm talking about climate change, it really bothers me, it frustrates me, but what am I actually doing about it, you know? Because it's like
Absolutely.
it's easy to say I hate all this stuff, but like what am I actually trying to do? And so I encourage people to think this way, you know, because if I always even teach my students this philosophy of, if you have an excuse, that's fine. But
Hmm.
if you keep having the same excuse, it means you probably don't care,
Hmm.
you know? And so all this outrage, all this stuff, I generally stay out of, especially media outrage. I generally just don't engage at all, you know? Like when the whole Sonic stuff happened, I was just like, cool. And I just kept getting back, I just got back to work. but like,
Hmm.
social stuff, there are some things I do dip my toes into, especially if I feel very strongly about it. Like the immigration stuff is one of those things. I feel real strongly about immigration. I have a personal bias towards this for sure, and then and plus, I just think it's stupid. The more we create rules and regulations that prevents globalized thinking,
Yeah.
and help it, like for instance, like a lot of you guys who are overseas, it's going to be harder for you to come to the States just because
Exactly. I was about to ask you that how is the situation?
and I think it's backwards. Like I think immigration should be on the side of keeping people from leaving your country, not um keeping people
New
from
people coming
coming.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, we can't just have open borders. It's like, no, you don't need open borders, you just need more doors, right?
Hmm.
You need more people opening doors, letting people in, vetting them, properly, you know. Like when you go
Correct.
to a store and you try to buy like something at a grocery store and there's only one cashier, it's a fucking nightmare. That's what we have at all our borders, right? Like all of them.
Yeah.
Like that's what our
Yeah.
immigration's like. We only have like one person at the door, you know?
Correct. Correct.
Like because you want more people, especially people who are leaving and want to work and actually have a better life, which is the majority of people, right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to boost the economy, which helps all of Americans, right? And everybody else. It's going to fuel industry. It's going to do all the things that capitalism loves, right? It's going to do that. Um, you can bring that American work here. All those Chinese workers who only work for like $1 a year or some crazy nonsense. You could bring them
What
here.
dollar, yo?
No, I
Shit.
don't know. That was an exaggeration, but like my point is that like you want the best and brightest, and
Yeah.
you think that, well, we want the best and brightest that are right now, but it's like the
Mm.
philosophy that I talk to teach you guys too, which is that like, make friends with even your classmates, because some of you guys are probably still are in your infancy of your career, but
Mm.
as you get better, you may become one of the leaders, right?
Yeah.
And also, like, if you think about that same philosophy of like, okay, well, what if you bring in one person, like an immigrated family, they're dirt poor, they're not contributing in the way you think, but their kids grow up to become entrepreneurs and billion
Mm.
dollar they make billion-dollar companies that then employ hundreds if not millions of people, you know like
Yeah.
that's like a long-term investment. You're investing in people who are hardworking, and hardworking people, it takes time for them, like a couple of generations, for their kids to actually contribute in a real big way, you know like almost like a lot of the biggest CEOs and company owners in our country are from immigrants, right? And so it's kind of like it's a bizarre philosophy to like keep people out, uh, like in a way where it's like so difficult. I don't think that it should be that difficult. I think it should be on the other country, like India, for instance, for like to try to prevent you from leaving because you would bring value to the country
Mm.
by
Mm.
staying. You know,
Yeah.
where we would like Blizzard would could benefit a lot from you or whatever because you're like a good artist and you can bring a lot of talent and skill to that industry.
Mm.
Um, and so I understand that it is hard, but like think of The Last of Us that's being made. Like a lot of the people that are working on that project are not
Mm.
from the country. My
That's
buddy
true.
Frank still has his green card. Like he still is working on getting a visa, and he's barely hanging in there. And he's originally from China, but he's
So
like
how is it
one of the
working there?
lead character concept or lead character modeler, you know, and like
Okay.
China's like trying to get him back. They're like, motherfucker, escape the ranks, make those games for us. And he's like, no, dude, fuck China. At least that's how he feels about it, right? He's like, I'm trying to get out of that world. Like I have other
Uh,
friends who love China, but I'm just saying, like he personally like wanted to leave, his
yeah.
circumstances, and he's contributing to the American dream. so so all this outrage, all of this backlash, all of this like cancel culture, it's just not productive. It's just not productive. It's focused on all the wrong problems, right? It's not solving any real issues, just actually creating more issues.
Mm.
Because like you have even people like it's so funny, man. Like I watched this show called Philip DeFranco on YouTube, and he was talking about a female YouTuber who started her own TV show. And I guess the
Mm.
first show, she was like really going after like white men and whatever, like falling into that real hardcore left leaning social justice warrior stuff. And obviously, all the right wing white dudes were super pissed and like, oh, cancel her. And then like the following episode, I guess she like made comments about like turbans or something like this. Like she was using like terminology that could be considered a little racy, but I don't think
Oh.
if you watch or listen to what she said, and same thing with like the white male stuff, she's pretty on the nose, like pretty racy, and it's actually very racist, but like people don't care because it's white men. you know,
Mm.
but it's definitely racist and sexist to be like out one particular group. But because it's that group that everybody's okay with being racist against, like nobody says anything. And so, but then when she says like even just like a tiny little joke, then now the left wing group that she is attributed to like went after her. It's like this is the problem. You can't say anything now because like you got to realize everybody gets pissed. There's always going to be
Mm.
somebody that's going to be like super angry because you said a thing.
Yeah.
And so like this is why I'm not really a big fan of this stuff. And I encourage you guys to be very cautious with your own personal opinions, right? Like it's
Yeah.
okay if like you have like this really crazy opinion, like I don't know, like I have people that I talk to offline who like
Mm.
think that the earth might be flat, you know and these are
Yeah.
friends of mine. These people I consider friends, and I just like make fun of them behind closed doors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
because I don't want anyone else to like ridicule these people or make fun of them. Like that's my job. And I made fun of him, and we were talking about it, and I eventually convinced him how he was wrong. But my point is that like we did it in the safety of like an intimate conversation, not like he put it out there online and then everyone went after him.
Publicly gaga.
Yeah,
Correct.
and then publicly everyone goes after him, starts making fun of him, and then he doubles
Uh,
down because nobody wants to be the butt of a joke. But if you're like the
Correct.
butt of a joke with only one other person, and not only that, the person is your friend, it's a little bit
Then it
easier to
doesn't matter.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little bit easier to listen to what the criticism may actually be, right?
Correct.
Like just as much as I was listening to his reasonings why it could be flat, right? And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. And I listened to it, I like laughed and we were just talking shit to each other. And then, but eventually he came around to realize um, maybe he's not exactly right. But this is my point. Again, getting all the way back to this point, like you guys just be careful of your opinions. I
Yep.
even think like I wonder if I may have said some things already in the past that will come back and haunt me like 10 years from now when cancel culture comes back. you know, it's just so crazy.
Okay.
Like, yeah. But anyway, that is my
Hmm.
philosophy and thoughts on that. I think generally speaking, if you have a pretty racy opinion, unless you know it's going to potentially make some change, I think it's probably best just to keep it to yourself or just argue amongst good friends that might
Yeah.
disagree with you. Because I don't really see any value in doing it publicly,
Makes
unless
sense.
unless you're trying to bring some awareness. But usually, even then, like you're probably still talking to an echo chamber of other people. Anyway, hopefully that gives you guys some insight of what I think.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Any questions? Oh yeah, I've been painting this armor too to make it
Yeah.
look nice and tidy. But ultimately, whenever I paint um, armor, I always just try to get the larger forms, and then I start to put in like sheen or shine. In this case, I'm going to put a little bit of scribbles.
I have a question about the immigration thing that you were talking about. So, like,
Sure.
if people like us from India who want to come, apart from the portfolio, what exactly legality and formalities do we have to go through? Like, any sort of exams or any sort of
This is
tests or something?
this is Trump's America, so we're no more brown
Yeah.
people. Sorry, we're done. We're done bringing brown people over. I don't know if you got the memo, but
Yeah. I've got a vibe. But
but
is it
like
going to change?
yeah, jokes aside, this is the part where I don't really have as much knowledge as I would like to have on this stuff. I personally have
Okay.
never immigrated, right? Obviously, and I haven't helped a student or been a
Okay.
part of that process, like for someone else,
Okay. Hmm.
So everything I'm about to tell you is based off of what other people have told me. Okay,
Okay.
but like so,
Okay.
it's like secondhand, and you just do what you will with that information.
Okay.
Um, but like I said, I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, it's easy, just do this. This is the definitely the kind of situation where I think there is a genuine like struggle that I
Yeah.
respect. Okay, and I respect that this is real. Okay, so now
No.
let me try to give you some helping thoughts on this. Okay, so
Hmm.
first of all, it is possible, obviously, right?
Okay.
In fact, many of the parents that I interact with here in Irvine are from India,
Uh,
right?
oh.
Yeah, because Indians are also like they're they're Asian, and that Asian juice, whatever that is, makes people work crazy hard in the
They're
mathematics and the
all over
sciences.
the globe. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then like yeah, all over the globe, exactly. So like all these parents I'm talking about are like like they're like aerospace engineers and
Nerdy,
doctors.
nerdy guys.
Yeah. Like it's like very stereotypical Asian Indian.
Yeah.
And like I don't know any Indians that are artists that are in Irvine right now. I'm sure there is, but it's just like
Yeah.
me. I'm also an anomaly. There is only one. I think I could say confidently,
Hmm.
potentially only one successful Black Korean concept artist, and I am that person. You know what I mean? I think there is only one. I am the one. And so, let alone like Black artists in general, right?
Okay.
There's quite a bit of Korean concept artists, but there's not as many Black concept artists.
What about Philip Jr.?
I'm saying that there are. I just say there aren't many.
Yeah.
Like that's it. That's me and him. No, just kidding. No, like when we were at Mike could tell you this too because he was at the dinner. We were at a dinner at Lightbox. My mixer had more Black people in it, but the Lightbox actual convention dinner for all the exhibitors, it was just like me, Philip, and Marco, and then Mike was my assistant. And so it's like it was literally like, and then I brought Kaylin too. So it was like 5 of us in a room of like hundreds of people. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to again. I'm not trying to make it seem like the industry's super racist. It's going back to my earlier point of like that just Black kids don't know that they can even do this. It's like nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
And so anyway,
people are not there.
So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know like the specifics, but like I said, it's obviously possible, right? I think
we've heard shit rumors.
Yeah, well, let me just say this: like
next to impossible for us.
Well, I don't know if it's like next to impossible, but I definitely know it's possible. Now, depending on how challenging that is, I don't know, right? It could be very challenging, or it could be just as challenging as any other country might have it, right? But I do know this: the better you are,
the more the chances.
The more the country that like wants to hire you will go out of their way to try to hire you.
Correct.
And so I have stories of like people who work, like for instance, I have a great story of a guy who worked at DreamWorks. He's French. So again, it might be easier for French, but like this is a good story that I like to tell anyway, because this guy, he was like the lead character designer over at DreamWorks. Like he pretty much was like in charge of designing some of the most iconic characters that DreamWorks has now, right? And he went to just go get a vacation, like just to see his family. He just wanted to go back to France. And I think his passport like expired or he lost it. I forget exactly, but something with like where he didn't have his passport, or it was not available. And so then he was stuck in France, and they're like, nope, you can't leave. And he's like, I got to get back to work, all that stuff. DreamWorks just like pulled the stops, you know what I mean, to get this guy back in country, and they got him back in country like in like a few days.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was like real quick, like they just expedited everything. Like they got like talk to diplomats and crazy stuff like this. And so like but he was like an incredible asset to their team, so they went out of their way. I think the same happened with a lot of other popular artists, friends of mine. This is just a common thread.
Correct.
And so, I think that like when people go through this, like I think if you create your more value, like you're going to be it's going to be easier for you. It's going to be hard for you not to be able to get success. Another thing that I like to tell people is that freelance is a thing. And it's becoming easier and easier to just work abroad, and like work without actually being in the same room. Now, obviously, I think it helps to be in the same room, but most people don't need to. Okay. And so if you build a good reputation online, you have a great portfolio online, you could probably work for big American companies. And you may have actually, like I had a student, we were talking about this. He was talking about like living in Serbia, like it's like hundreds of dollars for like living in like a 2-bedroom house or something like that. Like super cheap, where I pay thousands of dollars, right? And he was saying, yeah, you should move to Serbia. And it's not a bad idea because of like how much cheaper, because it's not like if I move to Serbia, then I would still be only making Like it doesn't become Serbian. I'm trying to think, like convert to Serbian rates. Like I'll be like, all right, now I got to charge just pennies, right? It's like, no, I could still charge like crazy amounts of money. And then he's like, yeah, if you did that and you lived in Serbia, you could like live in a mansion, right?
Oh, okay.
But then he was like, but you're in Serbia, so you know, he's like, if you want to live in Serbia, it's great, but if you don't care much for Serbia, then yeah, it's probably a problem. And but that's like a thing. You know, I was talking to somebody about moving to Colorado, and he was saying the same, making the same argument. So freelance has the advantage of like you can kind of live wherever you want, because some people actually love where they live, you know, but they
Yeah,
have the problem of, but all the jobs are in California, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
But like I said, but if you could find a way to make money without leaving, then you might be able to have best of both worlds. You work on your favorite companies and projects, and basically, uh, basically live in a much cheaper environment that's also very familiar to you.
Yeah,
You know,
correct.
that is now a new thing. That's something that most people could do these days. So even with the visa things, there are alternative solutions, and
Okay,
there are still things you can consider. So I
that's
wouldn't,
good news.
yeah, I wouldn't say it's like all like there was a time where I would definitely think like, okay, yeah, it's fucking a thing, and you're just gonna have to work even crazy harder. But I think that's becoming less and less a thing. Is what I'm getting at. And one last kind of point
Mm.
about all this is that, you know, there's no reason why you can't start your own company, right? Like you could build your own concept art team in India, and you start taking
Mm.
work as a team. You know, there's no reason
Mm.
why you can't be the resource for all the other Indians, right? To want to
Correct,
work for.
correct.
Like you're the one that begins that journey, you know?
Yeah.
And I have students who have done that. Like I have students in Spain that were like, there's no events in Spain. I was like, then make an event. And they're like, oh shit, you're right. And then they made an event and it's been going 4 years strong. Same with Canada. Like there's these students in Toronto. They're like, there's so many artists here, but there's no events.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, then make your own
Mm-hmm.
event. And they're like, you're right. And so they started making their own event. When I did workshops in Brazil, like I said the same thing. And then my buddy Andre started making his own events. You know,
Correct.
it's like there's no reason why you can't start the revolution, you know? And so
Yeah,
keep that
absolutely.
in mind as well. Obviously it
Yes.
helps when you start to build that reputation, but like even my student in China, he wanted us to build a school out in China because he wants to help
Mm-hmm.
his fellow Chinamen to like learn Western art and become better as a
Mm-hmm.
country. You know, like he feels that the country is just a bunch of copycats and they don't have their own original ideas, and it's frustrating to him, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so he wants to bring this influence to help out, and I was like, yeah, of course, let's do it. And he's doing it. He's doing a good job of it too, actually. And so I'm just saying this is just the possibilities to consider.
Yep. Definitely.
All right, I'll let somebody else ask a question.
Hi, Jay.
What's up, dude?
Yeah, so it's I also want to ask something about like working overseas. Uh, so I mean, these few days I've been thinking about wanting to go to some other places, and it's more like, do you know how far I am from, like in terms of skill, how far I am from
Oh,
being
you're
able
pretty
to work?
close. You're pretty close, to be honest. I would say like if you spent like another like really good year just practicing and putting all your effort into building a really strong portfolio, going to events, showing people your portfolio, applying for positions,
Right.
uh, like again, putting your face in front of people, doing more talks, doing anything that you can get more exposure, essentially.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take you too long.
Okay.
Yeah, you're already pretty skilled. Like in my opinion, you're already capable of working for pretty big companies, even not just small companies, like bigger studios.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah, so
Uh,
it's a matter of exposure then. Like people don't know who the hell you are.
okay.
You know?
Yeah. Also, one more question about like my style. Like, do you think uh, my style is like too much of a niche and it would be hard to find rock?
No, because that style isn't niche.
Right. Okay.
It's the opposite of niche. It's very popular, especially those sexy ladies. Then you talking about? Are you kidding? Like that's like a very popular aesthetic. But like the closer to manga style, anime style is very popular. In fact, I remember when I was in school, people used to make fun of like the anime kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on, just
Yeah.
1 second. All right, I'm back.
Hey.
My wife's just stepping out. She just was letting me know. But yeah, like I remember people used to, talk crap about the anime kids. I think I might have been part of that, but I was naive. I didn't know any better. Now I do.
Right.
And I was just like, I remember even thinking, I was like, wait a minute, but anime is like incredibly popular.
Yeah.
It's like a $1 billion industry, like around the world. It's not like we have events that house tens of thousands of people here in the States for these events. If it wasn't popular, it wouldn't be tens of thousands of people. It'd be like a couple hundred, right? Concept art is niche in general. Like people who know and appreciate concept art is a niche genre. But what you concept art, like for instance, the stuff that I concept art for a living professionally is mostly not niche stuff. What I do personally, like my personal work, is usually pretty niche, you know? But like I would say you're not in that category. Like you have very attractive art, the kind of art that other artists would like, as well as just non-artists. And it's really the non-artists that you want to build a good portfolio, especially when you're first starting out, because that's the kind of stuff that gets you work. Because you want to work on projects that are sold to consumers, not to artists. See, the reason why I can get away with just doing mostly personal artwork that's very, very niche is because my audience is niche. I'm an artist. I teach artists how to become better concept artists, And ironically, that niche that I've did for the last several years, for the last few years, I mean, is now starting to get me work, because people are kind of getting bored of seeing the same old, so they're actually reaching out to me now to try to help them provide some new aesthetics, but like I don't need to like wait around for that. I can just kind of just keep teaching, just teach an extra class if I need more money, or I'll make another series of tutorials if I want to get caught up. My destiny's in my control, but it's been earned, right? Because of all the years of sharing my work and all the years of talking and making friends. Like it's only becoming, I'm on that exponential curve. I can feel it, where it starts slow and steady, but then it starts to curve up until it starts to get like rocket ships up. I'm feeling I'm like right here now. Like I'm on the rocket ship part up. I was here for quite a while.
Right.
But now it's like, because I even checked my email. I sometimes just look at the subject, and some of the subjects is like, hey, we want you to sponsor this thing. It's like, what the? I used to never get that. I get job offers every month or every other month now, which again was never a thing. Right? I never had to really turn down jobs before, and I have to from time to time. So that's something that comes with prestige, with just years of exposure. When I do Lightbox, it only increases my exposure. So I think that's your only issue. I don't think you're doing niche stuff. I don't think that you are doing artwork that people like. I think you have the opposite of that. You have artwork that most people would love to see, like in a video game. character or something, and then it's just nobody knows you exist, my man.
Okay.
You gotta stop
Thanks.
joining those Hong Kong protests, dude. Stop setting things on fire by slowly painting in your room with nobody knowing what you're doing.
No, I mean that's the reason I want to get out of this place.
You should just like, when they're putting those posters on the ground, the protesters, you should just put your
Yeah.
portfolio on the ground. And they're like, what the? Like, aren't you for this protest? You're like, dude, I'm just trying to get a job, man. I'm trying to make that money. And so I exploit this historical event for your own biddings. Anyway, hopefully that helps you out. Gives you some insight.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Any other questions?
How's the motorbike studies going on? You said you were really into that.
I actually haven't done one for a couple of days, so thanks for reminding me. Though I should get back on them. But they were going good. They're going good. I mean, they're studies. They're all terrible, but I feel I get better every time I do them. I just haven't done them, and so I just need to get back to it.
So it's mainly like just big shapes first, and then like how do you approach the details?
I just study broadly, and as I start to do it, I start to realize the subtleties of what I don't know, and then that makes me focus in on what I should practice. I don't have a fundamental strategy for practicing. I just kind of just practice, and then something surfaces, and then I focus on that. So right now, so for instance, the first instance of that I got was that I just didn't know what makes a motorcycle a motorcycle. So I got like a bunch of videos to study motorcycles and how they work. Like I watched a guy like take apart an engine, and I was like, oh, okay, I understand. That's the kind of stuff that I study, or that's how I study. I study, and this is what I teach, right? Like I think I talked to Mike about this specific solution. It's like don't just study for the sake of it. Like start broadly, but then as soon as you do, like, what's the goal? My goal is to be able to draw a motorcycle from memory, right? And so if I don't know how it works, I don't have a functional understanding of a motorcycle, then it's going to make it really hard to draw it from memory. Because drawing from memory allows me then to be really creative with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I found out while I was like trying to draw guns from memory. Because like I just kept repeating the same shapes over and over, and then I condensed down to the smaller detailed shapes.
Yep.
So it's helping.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions?
I have one same question as Bran. How long for me to get like ready to start working properly as far as the work goes?
Yeah, so as soon as you start to really get those forms together, I think you're probably more likely to get a job. I think like because you guys are coming from a different nation, you might actually have better chances within your own country. But outside of that, you got to just increase the standards. The standards got to be pretty high. And so a good strategy is just like look at a company that you would like to work for and see if you can do work that would qualify for that. And if the answer is no, then you need to start working towards that. Like if you want to work for Blizzard Cinematics, then you need to do Blizzard Cinematics quality artwork.
Okay.
Yeah? If you want to work for like a ILM or some sort of movies house, then you got to do movie house quality artwork.
So are there like direct jobs for the film industry?
Well, the way I think about it is that you should just focus on like where you would want to work if it was a job, even if it isn't a job. Like if there is no job to work on like the Avatar movie, right? But you kind of know what they would want from somebody who wants to work on the Avatar movie. That's what I mean. Because there's other companies that might want that same style too, and then they'll see that you have it and then they'll hire you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, the movie industry is a hard industry to get into though, but it is definitely still possible. Like I said, anything's possible. there are definitely different degrees. Like some jobs are easier to get than others, but I don't like to mention this too much because I think it's best you just try to aim for where you really want to end up. Because even if you don't end up there, but you end up somewhere secondary to that, at least now you're
That might be a good
practicing.
place.
Yeah, at least you're a little bit like, let's say it's not even like a big studio, but like at least you're practicing. Like if you want to do character design and you get hired as a junior character designer, then at least you can keep practicing that, right? But if you say, oh, I just want to get a job, and you work as, I don't know, prop designer, then you're going to get really good at prop design, and then you're not going to be able to get that character job until you start practicing character design again. And people don't realize this until they get that first job, and then they realize that their strategy was all wrong.
Yep. Hopefully by the next week, I might show you something improved upon.
Yes,
and again, I might ask you the same question.
Yeah, you just keep trying to show me what you got, and I'll give you feedback whenever I can.
What days do you have class next week?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's going to be the schedule. Yeah, because I have my surgery.
Yes.
And
all the best for that.
Yeah, I'm almost convinced I'm not going to be ready by Wednesday. But I should be good to go. Like my doctor said that even after the surgery, will be able to like talk and walk and do all kinds of stuff. You know, just not doing too crazy. But he said like most people are fine. It just hurts, and you just take pain medicine and just don't drive. You know. But he said I should be fine. So, but I want to give myself a good proper day of just laying down, eating Cheetos, vegan Cheetos.
Absolutely.
And then feel good to talk to you guys on Wednesday. I'm sorry, Thursday.
Yeah.
And we'll just wrap it up. We'll take it to the weekend.
Yes.
All right, guys. Yeah. So this is relatively rendered character. Hopefully you get a good sense of like how I would detail, like to me, maybe like a half an hour ago, because I spent about an hour on this, right? Maybe an hour and 15, 20 minutes. No, because I did the other demos. This is probably definitely an hour long. That's 30 minutes too much. I would have probably stopped like after 30 or 40 minutes and then do another design if I was doing multiple. But like you can see that when I'm giving a task, like let's say they do like approve of a design like this, then I literally will just sit here for like 2 to 3 hours to really render it, right? Because it takes me about like if you give me 4 hours of time, I can pretty much finish a painting from start to finish, like really good, like something that's really useful to another artist, like a modeler. Because even like the legs and the lower torso are really still unfinished. That's probably like another 30 or 40 minutes. And then I still have to color it and then render some more on top of that to make it look really nice and dope and illustrative. That'd probably be another hour. And so, yeah, about like 4 hours usually. But hopefully this gives you guys some insight on some rendering stuff to inspire you guys. Here, I'll just zoom in here. And hopefully the color demo will help you guys with coloring. But don't be too worried about the color stuff. We can actually talk more about that next week. But like it's important that you at least detail as best you can, because that detail is the thing that's really hard to do. And with that being said, I'm going to roll out, guys. Cheers, friends. Cool. Great class so far. You guys are killing it. Keep up the positive energy. And then I'll talk to you guys next week. Have a great weekend.
Good luck for the surgery.
Yeah, see you after the surgery, guys. Cheers.
Yep, good luck. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you like the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.